Hey folks, this is just a little a quick aside for the stitch up, but it's something that I really wanted to talk about. I went and saw the film Nitram last night. I went and saw it at Nova Cinema. It was a Q&A screening. I really enjoyed the film. It is difficult to watch. It's harrowing. It's beautifully made. It's stunningly photographed. It's really well written. It's remarkable. It's a remarkable piece of Australian cinema. But during the Q&A segment of the screening, when Justin and Sean and a couple of producers were on stage, one of the questions from up the back that was answered was from somebody who did not like the film. This person was asking why some of the survivors of the Port Arthur massacre weren't consulted during the making of the film. Now, the director said that they were. This gentleman didn't believe him for whatever reason. He went on to say a bunch of stuff, and including that he didn't like the film. Justin, the director, or Mr. Kurtzel, sorry, he handled it very well and said, "Thank you for coming to see my film. I look forward to having a broader discussion about this." And that was kind of the end of it. The gentleman left, and the session wrapped up, and that was all. But I just felt I wanted to chat about it for a minute or two. I don't know what the deal is with this person. I don't know if they are a family member of someone who was a victim, or someone who's a survivor, if it's just a Tasmanian native who lived there and is affected by it growing up or whatever. But he said, "I don't understand why a film like this needs to exist." He didn't know who it was for. And that's a totally valid point. And I would never take away his feeling from that, because it is genuine, and that's I'm not accusing him of being a virtue signaling person, or that he's taking up a cause that isn't his. I'm sure that he believes very dearly and deeply in what he said, and that's fine. I just want to counter to it by saying, this is a film, as I said, that's very well made. We can look at it from a cinematic standpoint of being just a wonderful piece of cinema. But more on its point, I mean, the screenwriter, Sean Grant, said he had been mulling over the idea for quite a few years about doing a story about the Port Arthur massacre. And he'd come at it from a bunch of different angles. And he was very influenced to write it because he was living in Los Angeles, working as a screenwriter. And in America, he said they have very different types of gun violence there. It's so much more present and prevalent. And he was using this story as a lens or as a light to shine on, these kind of issues globally, not just in Australia. And as I said, he'd gone about it a few different ways of how to tell this story, and telling it from the perspective of Nitram, who is the Martin Bryant surrogate in this film, was his way in. And I think the best point that he made was he wanted to show the kind of person who shouldn't have access to guns. The character in Nitram is very troubled. He has a troubled home life, and there is some serious derangement going on, and this person needed help, and they were not given that help, and it turned to violence in a devastating fashion, as it did in real life. I don't know what the real Martin Bryant was like, but the character in the film is, even though it's a surrogate for him, it is a surrogate for anybody who is unhinged and has the ability to do great harm to other people. And at that period of time, had serious access to guns, the kind of access to guns that you don't talk about in Australia anymore. Even though, as it says at the end of the film, there are more weapons in Australia, in the public's hands in Australia now, than there was in 1996. And I think the point that I really want to make is, go and see this film. Go in with an open mind. Yes, it is based loosely on the events that happened. Well, not loosely. It is based on some of the events that happened in and around the massacre at Port Arthur in Tasmania in 1996. If you go in thinking that this is going to be some sort of glamorization of the character of Nitram and the Martin Bryant surrogate or whatever, that's not it. That's not what happens. This is showing people the kind of psychopathy that is dangerous in an environment where guns are available. And I think it has a lot more to do with, things that are going on outside of this country as well. I mean, if people see this film and recognize the kind of behaviors present in the character of Nitram in people around them, maybe that person will get some help, and maybe some people won't suffer. The gentleman who stood up and spoke his mind had every right to. I do think he hijacked the room a little bit, and being that we're all kind of still a little bit on edge post COVID lockdown in Melbourne, it was a little insensitive in that respect. But I understand where it came from, and I know that that's probably not what he was thinking. He needed to make his point. And I applaud the filmmakers for taking that on board and for actually listening to what he said. It also educated me. I didn't know there was controversy around this film until I went home and researched it. And it's true. And these people who were affected by the Port Arthur massacre, have every right to feel the way that they do. But I just think that there's an important part to this film that can, as I said, educate people and maybe help some people out of some situations that they're currently in that would be devastating otherwise. So that's it. It's just, a few quick thoughts. If you don't agree, that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. I don't expect you to. But I just wanted to say it's a remarkable piece of work. I really did enjoy the film in the sense that I enjoyed the film of itself. The content is difficult at times. But I think it's an important conversation to be having at this period of time. No matter where you live and no matter who you are, I think there's something there for you. So go and check it out, and I hope you take something away from it. So thanks very much, and we'll see you again.